Cincinnati Bengals fans, buckle in. This is not news you wanted to hear, but it's news we have to talk about either way here on No Butts About It. What's up, everyone? My name is Josh Butts here with No Butts About It. Today, we're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. What needs to change, what should change, and what might change. Um, Sunday's game against the Baltimore Ravens was just abysmal from the top down. You had, uh, it started off just poorly. They had trouble getting people into the stadium. Then, when they did get into the stadium, the seats weren't cleared off from the snow, which it's still unclear to me if that is Hamilton County's responsibility or the Bengals. I don't know what their lease agreement is there, but either way, not a good look for the Bengals. And then the on-field play was just terrible. The offense looked like it had given up. The defense looked the same as it has all year, aside from a few games where they actually looked promising. And it was not good, and it led to a shutout, a big goose egg at home against an AFC North rival. Absolutely unacceptable. When Joe Burrow is your quarterback, you have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. That should be a Super Bowl caliber team, not whatever the heck was put out there on Sunday. And so most fans, most franchises would come to expect that there would be some change with this team, with this front office. But of course, this is the Cincinnati Bengals. We don't like change, and at times it's questioned if we even like winning. Now, of course, first of all, those comments about that Joe Burrow made, he came out and said that had nothing to do with Cincinnati. That just had to do with football in general. But I do think there is a little bit of something there that the Bengals need to be worried about keeping this guy happy. This is your cash cow. This is your guy. So whether he's saying the same things to the media that he's saying behind the scenes, I don't know, but we will see. The point is, though, something isn't working. You have Joe Burrow as your quarterback. You should not have a problem winning football games. Even when Joe was hurt, you still had a good offense. So what is the problem? Well, last year we said it was the defense. We said it was Lou Anarumo. And Zac Taylor fired Lou Anarumo, brought in Al Golden, and we were like, okay, we got it figured out. Everything's going to be okay. I was excited about Al Golden. You were excited about Al Golden. Everyone was like, we're good. But no, the defense has arguably gotten worse this season. And so then we have to turn to Zac Taylor. Is Zac Taylor the problem? We're going to talk about whether or not he will be fired here in a minute. But there's another guy who's been hiding behind the scenes this entire time. And that is de facto GM Duke Tobin. Duke Tobin is not a GM in the traditional sense. He's really just a GM in name only. I'm not even sure how much say he has in the contract negotiations with the players. But his drafting, or the Bengals drafting in general, has not been good. People on the interwebs are saying that the Bengals need to invest more in the defense, in the draft. How much more? Because last year, second round pick was a defensive player, which granted, he's been really the only promising part of this defense this year in DJ Turner. The few years before, they had first round picks. They had Miles Murphy. They had Dax Hill. Both first round picks. They had Shamar Stewart this year. First round pick. The problem is they're drafting these defensive players that they're having to reach on. Now, Miles Murphy has come into his own a little bit this year, but it took, 3 seasons? Because he hardly got any playing time? That's unacceptable for a first round pick. And then you look at this year's draft. They clearly wanted a linebacker. They took 2. They took one in the second round and one in the 4th round. They took Demetrius Knight and they took Barrett Carter. Why not just take one in the first round if you want a linebacker that bad? You don't like Jahad Campbell for some reason? Take Carson Schwessinger. Everyone was high on Carson Schwessinger. I loved Carson Schwessinger. Instead, he went to your AFC North rival in the second round. But that's not why we're here. We're not here to talk about the draft. There are issues with it, and we will continue to talk about that as we get closer to the draft season. But Zac Taylor should be on the hot seat. He's still riding off of that 2021 and 2022 season where he took us to the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship, and that was awesome. Loved it. He was going to have a statue built outside of Paul Brown Stadium, now Paycor Stadium. But I don't think that's the case anymore. I don't know whether the league has left behind Zac Taylor, if he's not getting the players he wants. There's something happening here that the Cincinnati Bengals simply are not winning football games anymore. They aren't winning games that they should win either. And some games have come down to offensive play calling. A lot of games have come down to defense. But the point of the fact is you can't blame the defensive coordinator 2 years in a row. I suppose you can, but you really shouldn't, because at that point, it goes to the head coach. It goes to Zac Taylor. And there was this kind of light at the end of the tunnel for Bengals fans, where even though Mike Brown typically doesn't like to end contracts early, there was only 1 year left on Zac Taylor's contract, or so we thought. Before we get into that, make sure you like and subscribe. We talk about the Cincinnati Bengals a ton on this channel. So if you're a Bengals fan and you don't want to miss any news, make sure you subscribe. Helps us out a ton. Helps you out a ton. Thank you so much. Zac Taylor has more than 1 year left on his contract, according to Paul Dehner Jr. of The Athletic. And I will link this article down below. Paul Dehner Jr.'s, it was like a 1-paragraph thing in a much bigger article. If you have The Athletic, it's a good read. Paul Dehner Jr. does a fantastic job. Zac Taylor was apparently extended once after the Super Bowl. He signed a 5-year extension. And then he also signed a secondary extension after the AFC Championship game 5 years later for another 5-year extension. So his contract does not end in 2026. His contract ends in 2027. That's much less likely that the Browns will decide to move on from him this season. And you could say the coaching cycle isn't great this year, but there are some good candidates out there that you may miss out on if you decide to, sit and wait for Zac Taylor's contract to expire. And I think I wouldn't have such a problem with this if this wasn't the exact backwards way that the Bengals go about contracts normally. We have criticized on this channel the Cincinnati Bengals multiple times for waiting for the very last minute to extend players. Trey Hendrickson is an excellent example of this. DJ Turner is likely going to become an example of this. He should be extended right now. And there's always this off-season battle with one of the players because the Bengals decided to hold out to the last minute. So why are you extending a coach so early in their contract? You could say, hey, things were high. He was coming off the Super Bowl win, and then he was coming off an AFC Championship win. They wanted to lock him down. But he was only 1 year in after the AFC Championship game. You had him locked down. Right? I mean, that just doesn't make sense to the way that Bengals normally do things. And now are they going to use that as an excuse to not lock down players long term? Because they're going to say, hey, we locked down Zac Taylor and look how that worked out. That's not right. That's not how you do business. This continues to be a problem with the Cincinnati Bengals and is the reason that they struggle to keep talent around. Guys like Jesse Bates, DJ Reader, who were huge on this defense and is a big reason to why it's struggling. Why are you keeping around a guy who, Joe Burrow may not be happy with? Joe Burrow says to the media that he's happy with them, with the coaching staff, that he has faith in the coaching staff. And I don't think Joe's going to leave Cincinnati, but what is he saying behind the scenes? We know that Joe has pull in the building. All Joe has to do is go to Mike Brown and say, hey, look, it's either me or Zac Taylor. And Mike Brown should say, okay, we'll find a new head coach. The only person on this coaching staff who has seemingly been doing their job this entire time is the offensive line coach, Scott Peters, which is insane to think about because the offensive line was such a problem for so many years and now it's improved exponentially, but nobody's noticed because the rest of the team has been crap. So, what are you going to do, Cincinnati? Are you going to continue to honor this contract that's going to dig you deeper and deeper into the hole, barring an insanely good draft that you have shown you're incapable of doing? That you have shown that without luck, it's a struggle. You know, Joe Burrow has come out and said, I don't want to be the GM. I don't want to be the scout. I don't want to be in charge of bringing in free agents. That should be this guy's job. And the Bengals did nothing on defense for free agency. They should have been bringing in guys day one of free agency. There were great defensive free agents out there, and they just ignored them. They were busy with Trey Hendrickson. And that's part of the problem when you have your own players in contract disputes during free agency. Duke, there is an answer to rebuilding this team. And I don't know how much control you have, but you're the face of that rebuild right now. So, as a Bengals fan, I hope you get it done because I know you're going to be here next year. And I think you want to win football games. Now it's time to show fans that you want to win football games. But what we do know is that Zac Taylor is going to be around for a while, barring an insane change of pace for the Cincinnati Bengals. And that is very frustrating. Thank you all for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the Zac Taylor extension down below. Let me know what you think the Bengals' next move should be. I know there's going to be some Vikings fans that comment that Joe Burrow's coming to Minnesota. No, he's not. Have a great day, guys. And until next time, go do something nice for someone. And who day.